Hey, hello everybody. This is a quick video on Bitcoin price action. So since late last year, we've pretty much been trending downwards after the all-time high. And this trend line we talked about first acted as resistance and then acted as support. And since then, we've taken off from that trend line. So right now, it looks like we are trading in the sideways action right there. The question is, are we going to break out? If so, when? Because this is kind of getting boring. Right? Okay, so let's clear all that. Let's zoom out, because when in doubt, that's what we do. You can then start to look at a bigger pattern forming, which is this line from the top, and from the bottom, we have had a few bottoms that respect this trend line right there. Okay, so this is at a macro level what's happening. And when we find a wedge pattern like this, it is typically time bound, which means by the end of this apex, you either need to break up or you need to break down. So, and this apex is right around March 23rd, but I think by mid-March, there'll be some kind of movement that will either break up or down. Okay, so if we break down, what's gonna happen? Now, first question is Russia-Ukraine war will that continue to affect the price? I think it will to some extent, but if you look at this candle right here, this was the date of the Russia's war start, and the candle seems to have ended up with a high volume, and it's a green candle. That's typically what happens when there is a reversal. For example, here there is a high volume bar and a very similar story where the price was pushed down, then pushed back up into the green. So same thing here, the price was pushed down and they got pushed back up into the green. So it's typically signaling some kind of a reversal. Okay, so with that in mind, if we do go higher, then how high can we go? What are the levels where we will face resistance? There's quite a bit of resistance, by the way. Let's look at the VPVR, which is volume by price, and it shows us some clear areas where we're going to see resistance. So anytime we find a lot of volume by a particular price point, that shows us that on the way up, we will face some amount of resistance there as well. So this is around $47,000 range. There's actually an immediate resistance around 41 to 43, which is where we kind of got stuck the last time. So on our way up, you're going to see price get stuck in these two ranges, which is 41 to 42 and then 46 to 47 ranges. Okay, great. So now that we have that, let's look at what happens if the price were to not move up immediately and that there is some kind of sell pressure. There has to be some bottom at this level of 29, because 29 seems to be a key level throughout the past few years. 29 has come in and acted as support in so many different time frames. So that would be the absolute low. But the good news is even before 29, this range, you see this block of VPVR resistance right there, this is a pretty good resistance level. So between 37 and 31. So even if there was some big macro news, we've got some amount of resistance in that area. Again, there are no guarantees in life, but this is what I'm looking at between $38,000 and $31,000. There's enough resistance. If you break that, it's $29,000 resistance. Now let's look at some on-chain metrics. So all this data is borrowed from Glassnode. Glassnode is an on-chain metrics analytics company. I encourage you to check out their YouTube channel. There's a much longer video on how to read all of these graphs and what all this means. But here's and the main takeaways, but I do encourage you to go look at the Glassnode video. So this is the number of active addresses and a 14-day moving average. So the 14-day moving average takes out all the choppiness. It's the number of active addresses, which means the number of Bitcoin wallets that are actively trading and are not dormant. Okay, so when the price, this is the white line, this white line you see here is the price, and this is January of this year. When the price goes up, typically the number of active addresses also go up in orange. So same thing here in 2017 when the price went up, number of active addresses went up. Why? Because there is a lot of buzz in the community that everybody wants to own some piece of the action. So short-term buyers and holders come in and they're buying, and when the price drops, of course, everybody loses interest. They've got other things to do in their lives. And then you start to see a drop in the number of active addresses as well. So more recently, the active address tried to move up, the number of active addresses, and then it really got shot down by this downward trend. And we are nowhere near the levels that we would want to see if we want more price action and more interesting things going on in Bitcoin. Right now, it's just almost moving sideways. It's trying to trend up, but we're not there yet. So from a supply perspective, it is pretty week. All right, so let's go to the next side of the equation, which is the supply side of the equation. So these are the number of coins more than 1 year old. Okay, so this orange line that you see is the number of coins that are more than a year old. So when this goes up, it means the number of dormant coins are going up, which means people are not selling or buying. And when it's going down, it means the coins are becoming more lively. There is transactions going on. So the number of coins more than 1 year in the same place is reducing. Okay, so we saw very similar kind of a curve earlier, around 2017, 2018. As the price peaked, there was a lot of interest and people started to sell into that strength. And as the price started weakening, only the long-term holders were hodling. That increased the age of the coins. We're seeing a similar thing happen here where we are on an uptrend with the age of the coin, which means there isn't much happening. Only the long-term hodlers are keeping the coins in their wallets. And there really is, like we saw, there is no supply side pressure for us to sell. So there is a lot of older coins in the market. With that, one last thing to look at is this oscillator. And this oscillator is a very interesting one. It basically takes the coin days destroyed and puts a value on it. When it goes above the red line, it means there is a lot of enthusiasm in the market. So this oscillator you see here, when it crosses the red line, there's lots of activity. There's enough enthusiasm to put the price up. And similarly, when the price drops, this also tends to drop, but it tends to be a leading indicator. It peaks before the price peaks. Same thing here. It peaked before the price peaked, right? So it tends to be a leading indicator. So now looking at this, we are somewhere in the lower ranges that we've ever been. And that again shows the macroeconomic uncertainties are holding people back. There really is not much movement, especially from a demand side. For the people that have been in crypto for a few years, this is normal. And for the newcomers, just know that this happens quite a bit. With that, I will let you guys go. Have a great week ahead of you, and I will see you all soon.